Welcome. Hey you, I am Sarah Turner. I am a freelance copywriter and a copywriting mentor. And today I want to talk with you about the top 10 concerns that all new freelancers have. Now, I think this is really important because what this will help with is realizing that you're truly not alone in your concerns. And now I have been working with freelancers for over 3 years. I've worked with thousands of freelancers in starting their own business. And it's so interesting to me that we all have the exact same concerns when we're first starting out. So, obviously, over that time and in working with so many different people, I have come to know what is true, what will really help you in pushing back on these concerns. Because more often than not, they're just fears that are trying to keep you safe, to keep you small, to keep you doing the same thing rather than maybe taking a chance on yourself and going out there into the big world and trying to start a business on your own. So I think it's really important that we talk about these fears today, and I'm hoping that by the end of this, you will realize, wow, I am so not alone. I have the same fears that everybody else does, and that I can thrive despite these fears. So let's dig into them. They are so interesting, and I'm willing to bet that you share quite a few of them. So the first one is simple. It's I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what's going on. And if you are starting in freelancing and you are trying to learn a skill on top of learning how to be a business owner, because ultimately that's what you should be doing as a freelancer, it is so normal to just have moments where you're like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. So again, this is super normal. And what I want you to do is try and shift that belief anytime it comes up to I am learning, because you can absolutely learn and grow and implement things so that anytime you learn like a new word, for example, or you see a word you're not familiar with, just write it down, take the time to look it up and add it to your vocabulary, and remember this is the part of the process and I'm learning as I go. It's interesting. I used to have a glossary of terms in Write Your Way to Freedom, and I actually removed it. And I did this for a few reasons. One of them being that a lot of terms in digital marketing kind of changes as we go. But two, I think it's really, really important when you come up against that you have the mindset of being a forever student and you actually take the time to just go, this is a new phrase, and I'm going to take the time to familiarize myself with it. And it is so important because, especially in the world of digital marketing, things are changing. And while that makes things interesting and, means you're never going to get bored, it also can evoke a lot of fear. So anytime you just say, I'm learning, and you take the time to maybe put a pause on what you're doing and learn a little bit about that new phrase, you are actually building self-trust. And that is so, so important as a freelancer. So the second one is, what if I embarrass myself on client calls? Look, I've embarrassed myself on client calls. It has happened. And I'm still here standing in front of you today, and I have still been able to build an extremely successful copywriting business. So don't let that be the thing that holds you back. Now, I will say, if you are taking the time to build a strong foundation before you hop on that client call, what usually ends up happening, and what I hear my students say constantly, is, wow, I knew so much more than I realized. And that is an incredible feeling. So something that really helps with this is give yourself permission the first few client calls you have to make them just learning experiences. Expect a no, even, if that helps you. So expect that you're not going to work together, but instead this is going to be a little experiment for you to get comfortable and practicing what you're going to say and how you're going to present yourself. So that is a really helpful tool for a lot of newbie freelancers. It kind of takes the pressure off, and it puts you back in that forever student mindset, which is, again, so important as you're building your own business. The third one is, what if I can't get results from my clients? Now, this is huge for copywriters. Obviously, a lot of this advice works really well with any kind of freelancing, but this is especially true for copywriting because your copywriting is intended to get an action, to get an end result or a conversion. And it can be so scary when you're first starting out. But here's the thing. You cannot guarantee results as a copywriter. I have written copy that I was not sure about, and it has gone on to earn tens of thousands of dollars, right? I have also written copy that I thought was awesome. And I was just like, this is going to blow it out of the water. This is just going to be amazing. And then it went on to bomb. And if you listen to the stories of copywriters, you will hear that they all have stories like that. It is just part of the process. And again, this is why I'm such a big proponent for the forever student mindset. Because one, I don't make promises to my clients, but I do tell them what they can expect, what our goals and our targets are, and how we'll know if the copy that I wrote is a success, right? So that's slightly different from guaranteeing it, right? I'm saying our target conversion for this landing page is 20%. And if we're just under that, that's a win. Like if we're hitting 19%, I'm happy. If we're hitting over 20%, I am ecstatic. So I let them know like what our target is, but I always also let them know that I cannot guarantee any kind of result. And that the point of copy is to keep testing, to keep seeing what resonates, and to keep showing up. And quite frankly, that makes this a really enjoyable process if you have the right mindset. So the next one is, what if I make a mistake? And here's the thing, you're going to. You are absolutely going to make a mistake in your journey as a copywriter. I have made many mistakes, and especially when I was first starting out and I was setting boundaries with clients, I was awkward and I was forceful and assertive and aggressive in a not so great way. It took really working on my mindset for me to get to a calm place where I could set boundaries without feeling as though I was being attacked by my client or they were trying to take advantage of me or something like that. So when you are a copywriter or when you are a freelancer, you're gonna make a mistake. It's gonna happen. It's part of the process. It's part of being human, quite frankly, and it is truly, truly okay. What matters most is what you do with that mistake. If that mistake makes you throw up your hands and say, I can never do this, I'm done, I give up, I throw in the towel, then that is so unfortunate and such a bummer, because then it really is truly a failure. But if that mistake is an opportunity where you stop and you take pause and you say, what can I implement in my process to therefore make this less likely that it will happen, then it's not a wasted opportunity. Now, I love to think of things that are mistakes as kind of like policies in the making. And what I mean by that is, for example, the first time you have a client who doesn't pay on time, and then a month goes by and another month goes by, and then you have to implement a policy to prevent that from happening in the future, that's okay. That's what happens. That's how you build a more robust business that is able to withstand all the different variables. And now keep in mind, you're not going to be able to predict them all, right? I mean, that happened to us recently when a pandemic kind of shook things up. So you're not going to be able to predict everything, but anytime there's a mistake, it's a policy in the making. What can you implement into your business to prevent it from happening in the future? Or how can you educate yourself better? Maybe you didn't have as much knowledge around a particular subject and you need to just double down and really take the time to research and learn. The next concern that I hear all the time is, what if I hate freelancing? Now, here's the thing. I genuinely think that most of the time when people end up hating freelancing or fearing freelancing, it's because they haven't done the mindset work that is necessary to build a business that you get to run rather than it running you. It is so, so important that you don't trade your boss for a worse one, i.e. yourself, right? So the question of what if I end up hating freelancing, usually most people hate freelancing when they don't implement mindset work, such as operating from a place of abundance, for example, rather than fear and scarcity, listening to their intuition and cultivating intuition, things like that. So is it a possibility that you'll hate freelancing? I mean, it could happen, but really, truly, more often than not, it's when you don't set it up so that it really works for you. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you become a freelancer, it's so important to outline your goals so that you know when you achieve them, but so that you don't just keep on chasing things. Because if your goal is to make $3,000 a month and only work 15 hours a week, and you don't have that clearly defined, not only will you not celebrate it when it happens, but you also run the risk of just working, and chasing that next goal and that next goal and that next goal until suddenly you're like, wait, how did I end up here? This is never what I wanted for myself. This isn't even why I started freelancing in the first place. So if you are worried about hating freelancing, I got to recommend that you double down on mindset work. The next concern I hear all the time are, what if I don't know how to do my taxes? Or how do I sign up for health insurance? Do I get an LLC? All the logistical stuff that seems very intimidating and overwhelming. And I am here to say that there are hundreds of thousands of freelancers who have figured it out before you, and they have dropped clues and keys behind you in the form of blogs and YouTube videos, and you can join Facebook communities. There are so many resources online today for figuring that stuff out that it is no longer a good excuse to get started. I really want you to push back on that one because all of those things are far less scary than you think. You just have to write them out, bring them out into the light so they're not like a looming scary decision, and start getting to work on figuring it out and how it works for you. And I cannot tell you how many times I have heard students say to me, wow, that was not nearly as scary as I thought it was. I should have just gone ahead and gotten my LLC like 2 years ago. It took me like an hour. Or, wow, taxes aren't that scary after all. I just put aside 30% of my income so I had plenty to pay taxes at the end of the year. Or, wow, health insurance seems so scary, but I just logged on to my state exchange and was able to find a policy and realized, okay, I need to set aside X number of dollars to pay health insurance because my employer won't be paying it. There are far too many resources online for things like that to hold you back, so really push back on that one. The next one that I hear a lot is, what if I can't deliver? Look, this is another thing that I want to encourage you to lean on all the resources that exist online. When I was writing my very first white paper, which is a very long piece of copy and a very expensive one, I went out and found a copywriter who specializes in white papers and asked them if I could pay them to review my work and give me feedback. You can do things like that too. So if you are worried about delivering, you can always take a course, join a community, hire an editor, whatever it is to kind of get that additional feedback, and that's going to help you grow so much faster. Now, will you deliver something that a client doesn't absolutely love? Absolutely. That even happens to me. I have been doing this for over 7 years, and I still sometimes submit something to a client where they're like, that wasn't my favorite piece of copy that you've written. And I just say, okay, let's dig in. Let's figure out how we can make this better. All of this stuff takes some trial and error and figuring it out. Same goes for deadlines. I like to have a week turnaround time because I don't really like things looming over my head for that long. But you might need longer. You also might decide you want to do it shorter. Maybe you're going to implement a VIP day and you're only going to work on something in like a 3-day window. You just got to figure out what works for you. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that. And quite frankly, that's one of the beautiful parts about being a freelancer. You get to decide and implement your own systems, your own strategies, so that it works for you and how you thrive in your work. So really, truly keep showing up, and that is the key here. So the next question I hear all the time is, what if I can't replace my income? Now, so many people don't even get started because of this fear. And it is such a bummer to me because one of the beautiful things about being a freelancer is that you can often use whatever skill set you're working with as a side hustle. And what I mean is yes, there's probably going to be a period of time where you're working on your side hustle after work. I mean, I was there too. I ended up actually taking like 2 part-time jobs when I was really trying to make that leap into copywriting. I was a server, I was doing a data entry job so that I would have more flexibility even though they paid crap. And I had to work on my copy at different times whenever I wasn't doing the other work. So I get it. It is so scary to kind of start making moves in that direction. But I'm telling you, little pockets of time are how you're going to do it. So set aside 30 minutes or an hour each day. And I think that's far better to do that 6-7 days a week than to set aside a Saturday where you crank on something for like 8 hours. So set aside time to take consistent action, and I promise you will make huge strides. Another thing I love to recommend to people is to pick a 90-day window. 3-month periods are the sweet spot for taking action where you can actually see a return on the input you're putting in. And it's a good amount of time where it's not so big that it's stressful. So make a plan for the next 90 days. How much time are you going to spend? And how much time are you going to devote to your new skill set and to starting your freelance career? Listen, I have learned so much over the years through moms. I've had so many moms come into the course where they only have 30 minutes while their baby's napping to get stuff done. And I am telling you, there are so many stories of that I know that it's true for you and you can do it too. I mean, one incredible story, which is on my YouTube channel, is Becky's story, where she had to work all day, do homeschooling, feed her kids dinner, put them to bed, and then start working on the course. And she would only have about 30 minutes to an hour worth of energy to even devote to this. But guess what? She has a thriving freelance business in under a year. So I promise you, I know that we always feel like we don't have enough time. I think that's kind of a pervasive feeling across the board for most people. And if that is true for you, just try and find a 30-minute window to devote to your future. It is a game changer, I promise. The next fear I hear often is, what if I don't like a client, and what if a client doesn't like me? And I'm just here to tell you that that's going to happen. It still happens. I have started working with a client where they dig into my writing style and they are like, I do not like this. This is not for me. I'm not interested. And I just, you know what? At this point in time, after having so many years of experiences like this where it just happens, I know that it happens because I also have clients who absolutely adore my writing. It is just like picking friends. Like, some people you're not going to vibe with, and some people you're going to absolutely love. I've had clients where I was like, this is not the client for me. I don't enjoy working with them. And I've gone on to find another writer to replace me, so I wasn't just leaving my client hanging. And I always tell them, hey, just a heads up, this is why I'm not working with this client anymore. Maybe they love too much technical work. Maybe we just don't agree on how to implement things like that. And they've gone on to have great relationships. I mean, I have had so many situations like that where then the copywriter takes on that client and they absolutely love them and the client loves them. So it's like a mutually beneficial situation. So just know that it's like picking a friend. It's like finding friends. Sometimes you're going to have clients you don't vibe with and they're not going to vibe with you. And it is so okay. And the final fear and concern that I often hear is, I am so overwhelmed. And let me tell you, I still get overwhelmed sometimes. But here are some of the things that I've implemented. First things first, I remind myself that there's not really any emergencies in my work. I'm a copywriter. I work in digital marketing. There's not really any emergencies. Nobody's life is on the line. I'm not an ER doctor. It is really okay. So when I have a client who's acting a little crazy and like the world is burning down and something is an emergency, I literally say to myself, there are no emergencies in marketing. And I take a deep breath and I move forward. The only time there's an emergency is if somebody messes up, right? But more often than not, it's just unnecessary pressure being put on by a client or even yourself because you really want to get something done. So remind yourself, there are very few things that are an actual emergency. The next thing that really helps me push back on overwhelm is to just remind myself that the next right step is all I have to do. I don't have to figure out what's going to happen in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. I really just have to figure out what's going to be the best next right step for me in this week. One of my favorite books is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it's about the compounding effect. And he has a really beautiful story that I love to share with my students, and I'm going to share with you now. And he talks about how spaceships that are on their way to the moon are off track 97% of the time. And so what they are doing instead of always being on the perfect course to the moon is they're constantly course correcting. And that's what you got to think about for you and your business too. You're constantly course correcting. You are never going to be perfectly on track, but you are going to always be going down towards the right way. Maybe you're headed straight for the moon, but then you realize, oop, I'm a little bit off track, and then you course correct to get yourself a little bit closer to center. And when you give yourself permission to be off track most of the time, it's a game changer because you know that you're always course correcting, that every opportunity, every mistake, every embarrassing moment, every success even is an opportunity to recalibrate and choose where you're going to go next. And trust me, I know that that's really overwhelming when you're starting out, especially when you're used to clocking into a 9 to 5, having somebody give you a list of tasks and then pat you on the back or tell you you're not doing a great job, because all of this has to come from within you. But I promise you, it is far, far, far more rewarding. So anyway, I hope this helps. I hear those fears. I hear them all the time. I'm constantly in communication with newbie freelancers. And quite frankly, I really love it because it reminds me of what it felt like for me when I was starting. So please share in the comments. What are some of your fears? What are some of the fears I missed? Because I would love to create more YouTube videos around this stuff, because ultimately I know that this is the difference between a business where you feel like you're kind of in survival mode and a business where you feel like you're thriving, right? That is the big difference here. And of course, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my YouTube channel if this really resonated with you. Thanks guys, I appreciate you so much. Have a great day.